Welcome, all who seek renewal in a weary world. Welcome, all who come with love and energy to share. Welcome to those who worry for the future. Welcome, each one who is grateful for today. Know that in this place, you are not alone. In community, we share our strength with one another, and we keep the flame of love burning bright. Know that in this place, responsibility is shared. Here, tradition holds us, and ancestors shine a light from the past. Here, the young lift their bright faces and beckon us onward. Take my hand, and we can go on together. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For every yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day.
We light our chalice this morning, our beacon of hope, hoping that the principles and the values that we believe in here as Peace Fellowship become manifest in the world. The people I love best jump into the work headfirst without dallying in the shadows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, that black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine and oil, vases that held corn are put in museums, but you knew they were made to be used. The pitcher cries out for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. Our meditation hymn is in the Teal hymnal, number 1007. There's a river flowing in my soul. We'll stay seated for this.
And
We all want to be successful, and we all struggle with what that means. Someone tells a young student he's good at jumping hurdles, and so he trains and finds himself on the block, nervous, wondering if this is right for him. When the gun goes off, he's running as fast as he can to beat the others, to stay in his lane, to clear every hurdle. Legs burning, he pushes harder and strains to cross the finish line, and out of breath, hands on his knees, he wonders briefly, is this where I belong? Is this where I need to be? Often our struggles with success are like that young hurdler. We find ourselves on a track we may not have chosen, but someone chose it for us. Working to stay in our lane, straining to clear every obstacle, lunging to beat others to the finish line. It's all very confusing and hard to unravel when someone keeps having that gun go off. And we feel the urgency to just keep racing. We all want to be successful, and we all struggle with what that means. We hear a call to get involved in a movement to promote justice around a social concern, and we train ourselves in the direction of the world we want to see, spending hours, maybe even years, educating others about an issue, building groups of people that are concerned about the same things that can help us, raising money, being good foot soldiers for the cause, making small gains. And then comes the backlash, and we start to see all those gains slip away. Did we succeed? We all want to be successful, and we all struggle with what that means. We work towards something we want, and we either get it or we don't get it. And this dichotomy is usually how we determine success or failure, isn't it? But what if, along the way of our struggle, we discover that working with what we've been given and struggling alongside others, we discover for ourselves a deeper, richer meaning to what it means to be successful. The word success derives from the Latin verb meaning to come close after. To come close after. What success means for each of us depends on what we're after and how close we get to it. The soul of success centers on that individual journey where we are struggling to come close to what we want or what we aim for. It's in the midst of the struggle that we become part of the unity of things. And this can be ours regardless of what we started off aiming for. In his book called The One Life We're Given, Mark Nepo tells the story of a bicyclist who he knew, who trained long and hard for a race in an event similar to the Tour de France that just ended weeks ago. He was disciplined and focused. He even shaved off his legs, the hair off of his legs, to streamline himself, to trim seconds off of his time. And at the beginning of the race, he began to pull away from all the other cyclists. And then just as he was descending a long hill, this huge heron with its magnificent wings fully spread swooped down right in front of his handlebars. And Nepo says the cyclist was so stunned by its beauty, he had to stop in the road. And the encounter with the heron opened something up in him that he had not known he was chasing. He stood there straddling his bike as the other cyclists passed him by. Years later, someone asked him, "Why did you lose that race?" And his answer was, "I didn't lose anything. I just stopped." All of his training gave him that opportunity for that encounter with the heron. And rather than seeing success dependent on winning the race, he made the shift to seeing success as being a deepening of his life's journey. William Stafford writes in his poem, "The Way It Is," there is a thread that you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People will wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread. But it's hard for other people to see. While you hold it, you cannot get lost. Tragedies happen. People get hurt or die. And you suffer and get old. Nothing you can do can stop time from unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. What is that thread for you? And might it be possible to think of success in terms of how closely we follow that thread, regardless of where it might lead us? In a recent article for the New York Times, David Brooks talks about the blessings and curse of ambition. Ambitious people, he writes, are energetic. They want to achieve big things, take a big bite out of life. They have this burning drive to succeed at their ambitions, which gives them the stamina to pursue their dreams year after year after year. Stamina as a superpower. If you want to really contribute something to the world, he says, you need to have this kind of stamina. But then he also adds that ambitious people are more likely to be ruthless, manipulative, status obsessed, and so focused on success that they can become hollow inside. And for this reason, he says, some sages say we should renounce all ambition and the kind of success that the world rewards us for. Abandon all selfish desires, offer the world only a pure, selfless love, and don't ever clamor for applause, some sages will say. I, for one, do not think applause is a bad thing. Selfless love is not often enough to drive us through the world that we want to succeed in, if we want to do something meaningful. But I do believe that we need to consider how closely we are holding that thread, whatever that is for us, that leads us back to our own personal integrity. In his article, Brooks suggests 5 struggles that we should keep in mind when we're thinking about our own success. 5 struggles. The first struggle is the struggle between craft and reward. How much time Are you driven by the desire for extrinsic rewards like fame or money? And how much through a desire to be good at what you do? This is an internal struggle, he says, we all need to pay attention to. If we have a balance that favors a commitment to the craft, that keeps us close to our thread. The second is the struggle between what he calls gift love and need love. Some of our loves come from what we've been given, and that can lead us to want to give back. But need love comes from a desperation for something we've been missing. And that can lead us to a really deep sense of failure when we don't get it. So it's always wise to ask yourself, what is the driving force for you wanting to succeed? The third struggle is the struggle between excellence and superiority. Do you want to be really good at what you do, or do you want to be better than the other person at what you do? Striving for superiority can turn to vicious competition, whereas striving for excellence can lead to mutual respect with other people in your field. The fourth struggle is between high and what he calls high and low desires. Hunger for power will often lead you to feel powerless. Hunger for money will often lead you to feel always poor. Hunger for approval will make you a people pleaser. But if you are hungering for your own excellence or your own understanding, self-understanding, the world will be filled with wonder for you. And the last is the struggle between ambition and aspiration. Ambition being the desire to rise higher in the world, and aspiration, the desire to be a better person. So those are the 5 struggles that David Brooks talks about. And I don't believe we have to completely rid our lives of any of those things. But perhaps we need to think in terms of 10 to 20% of our motivation being in the healthier categories. The people we most admire, I think, are those who take these struggles seriously and thoughtfully consider what motivates them anytime they're on their way to success. There was once a Hindu sage who offered teachings to a huge field of many who were gathered there, and he tells a parable about 2 monks who had studied for years, preparing themselves to climb a mountain so they could meet with the Buddha. And as they begin to climb the mountain, one of the monks slips and breaks his leg. They both stop to rest. The other monk makes the injured one comfortable. They stay overnight there on the mountain, and in the morning it's clear that the monk who has injured himself isn't doing so well. He's developed a fever, and he can't be left alone. The teacher stops the story and he asks the crowd, "What would you do? Would you leave? Would you forget about your appointment with the Buddha, or take your fellow monk back down the mountain?" In this story, the sage does not provide the answer to this dilemma. He simply says that in every era and generation, when we have more people who would leave the monk and succeed at their task of meeting with the Buddha, we have an age of cruelty. When there are more people who would take the monk back down the mountain, we have an age of compassion. What if making it to the top is not success? What if it's a failure of the heart? What if making it as far as we can go, given whatever circumstances we are in, is the summit? What if putting down what we're after in order to care for another on the path is what we were destined for? When I first began my parish ministry in a small congregation here in North Carolina, it's about 15 years ago now, congregational leaders told me that their most important mission was to grow the congregation. Does this sound familiar to anyone? And I bought into that mission. I made it my goal that within 10 years, we would double the size of that congregation, and that would be my measure of success. I knew that if I could do that by the time I was ready to retire, they would be able to comfortably afford to call a full-time minister, maybe add a part-time administrator, a religious education coordinator as well. It took us 10 years, but we accomplished all of that. And I felt very successful. I had met all of my goals. But that much change in a congregation also means that leaders need to do some really difficult work to accept some changes that are not comfortable, like changes in governance that support staff, clarifying healthy boundaries between the minister, the staff, and the lay leaders. And this was really hard stuff. In my last 2 years there, all that success began to unravel. And the reasons are not the important point this morning. The important thing is that I left that ministry feeling like a total and utter failure. It took me a long time to recognize that perhaps I was using the wrong metric to judge my success or failure. That ministry, it's not all about the numbers. It's not about congregational growth. I could see that in large part the failure of the congregation to sustain its growth happened in spite of the fact that I was following the thread of why I went into ministry in the first place, which was a commitment to build a loving and joyful community around the values and principles of Unitarian Universalism. And it took me a while to understand that in that, I had in fact succeeded. I find that quite often it's been the times that I initially felt like a failure that I could then begin to understand what it was I most cared about, because I was using the wrong metric to judge my success. Each one of us is both the monk that would continue on his journey up the mountain and the monk that would return back down with his friend. And each one of us is that cyclist who would try to win the race and the cyclist who would stop for the wonder of the heron. Think about the times when you've had an internal struggle about what you wanted and what you most cared for. What did you learn from the choices you made? We all want to be successful, and we all struggle with what that means. This inevitable struggle between what we intend and what life provides for us is the beginning of the art of acceptance. It's how we begin to belong to the world. We begin to be drawn to what we need to learn. We begin to be drawn to work that is real. And while life during these times may seem really, really hard, it can crack you wide open. And we learn to fly. May it be so, and blessed be. We cannot eliminate hunger, but we can feed each other. We cannot eliminate loneliness, but we can hold each other. We cannot eliminate pain, but we can live a life of compassion. Ultimately, we are small living things awakened in the stream, not gods who carve out rivers. Like human fish, we are asked to experience meaning in the life that moves through the gills of our heart. There is nothing to do and nowhere to go, excepting this: we can do everything and go everywhere.
We extinguish this flame to remind us, love is the center. As we explore and rest, engage and heal, love remains the center. When all we can see is cold ashes, love remains. Please join me in reciting together our Peace Fellowship blessing. Bless us with hope, bless us with care, bless us with love, bless all we share. Blessed be, Amen, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, Ashe.